So now what we want to look at are descriptive statistics. And again, stats, again, is divided really into two areas, right? What we call descriptive statistics and what we call inferential statistics here. So we'll begin with just looking at descriptive statistics. And so when we're talking about descriptive statistics, again, we're talking about using ways to describe data here. So we use descriptive statistics, again, to summarize data here, right, in order to communicate information about the data set in a concise manner here. So when we look at descriptive statistics here, it can be summary statistics, right, numeric values that we use to simplify some information about a data set, or it can be, a chart or a table as well in there. So really, we're just going to be describing different variables using descriptive statistics here. But one important thing to keep in mind here is descriptive statistics. Again, these do not generalize beyond our data being examined here. So when we look at descriptive statistics, we look at our data, and so this may give us some ideas about some certain relationships that we may want to examine further using other data sets in there, right? So again, we can use descriptive statistics to examine data. So if we want to here look at, for example, some real estate data here, we're going to use some data, right, from the website Zillow. And so of course they, estimate the prices of homes around the U.S. here. And so they, include other data such as, location, lot size, square footage, number of bedrooms, etc. A lot of information about houses. And in particular, we're going to look at some data from Saratoga, New York, right, which is about 1,728 listings in there. And so one thing we want to look at here is we want to know, based on this data here, how much does a fireplace add to the price of a house here, right? So we're going to use this, using descriptive statistics. And so, again, when we look at how much a fireplace might be worth, here, if we look at the home prices, right, we take the average, home price in the area of Saratoga, and it's about $212,000 here. And so that's the overall, but if we break it down into those with fireplaces and those without, you can see that those with fireplaces are about $240,000, those without are about $175,000 in there. So there's about $65,000 difference here. So what we're really looking at here is if a fireplace is really, worth about $65,000 here. And so again, we're going to use, the descriptive statistics to look at the data to see if, in fact, a fireplace does add $65,000 to a home, right? Because if it does, do you, let's say, invest, $30,000 to put in a new fireplace. So that way, you can net, $25,000 off the sale of the house here. So would it be smart to invest $30,000? To add that. So again, this is something that we can look at using descriptive statistics here. But again, before we can do that, right, we need to know a little bit more about descriptive statistics here. So again, with descriptive statistics, one thing we're always going to use descriptive statistics for is exploring the data, right, looking at each of our variables. And then, look at techniques we use for specific types of data. Again, for univariate data, so when we're looking at just one variable by itself, right? Or if we're looking at multivariate data, so more than one variable. Usually we'll look at two variables to see if two variables are related in some way here. So we've got different ways of looking at variables individually or looking at some variables taken together. And then the techniques we'll look at include graphical techniques here, and specific, some basic plots, right, that we like to use, and also analytical techniques, really, numbers that we use to summarize our data in here, right? So when we look at descriptive statistics, the things we should get out of this section is, well, we want to identify different ways of describing variables graphically, right? Identify different summary statistics that you can use for describing variables, and this is mainly really with continuous or quantitative data, right? And we want to, think of, or you should know different ways to compare data, right? So in other words, if I want to, compare two different groups, how can I do that, right? What measures should I use? And then really identify, what we call the shape, center, and spread of a distribution of data. And so, these are some important summary statistics, especially when we're just looking at one variable there. And also important here is, we want to identify methods of detecting outliers here. So it's always important that we examine our data set to see if there are outliers or not.